My business is going to be 12 years old this year, and I have learned a lot in that time. I was recently asked what are some of the mistakes that I made, or the common mistakes that are made when starting up a creative business, so I thought I would talk about 10 of them here with you today. Hey everyone, it's Hannah and welcome to the Corner of Craft. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the top 10 mistakes that people make when starting a craft or creative business. The Corner of Craft came into being 12 years ago, a long time ago. So I can't actually remember all of the things I wish I'd known, all of the mistakes that I'd made, or any of the mistakes that I had made, because a long time has passed since then. But I thought I would share with you some of the top mistakes that I have seen people make. And hopefully you will avoid making these if you want to start a creative business yourself. So a little about me. Hello, my name is Hannah. I am the business owner behind the Corner of Craft. I dye yarn and make beaded stitch markers. I had a business prior to this one, but I started the Corner of Craft and I started out selling crochet things in 2013. And it's now 2025 and I'm still going. I no longer sell crochet things though. My business has gone through some changes in that time, and now we're somewhere where I can stably do this as my full-time job. So one of the things that I commonly see people do is they don't niche down, and I know you're probably sick of hearing people talking about niches, but if you try to sell everything to everyone, your business and your brand is just going to be very confusing. People aren't going to know what you're selling if you're selling things that you've crocheted, things that you're 3D printing that aren't related to crochet at all. And I don't know, what's another common thing that people sell? Wax melts at the same time. Although wax melts and crocheting kind of do go together, but I don't know. If you try to do too many different things, it gets a little bit too confusing for people. So try to find your niche. If you find your niche, you'll find your market, and it will be a lot less confusing instead of trying to sell everything to everyone. Speaking of being confusing to your customers, inconsistent branding is a big one. I have been guilty of this, and I still am sometimes. So branding is a huge part of how you are recognized, especially if you sell online. You kind of need the font that you use to all be cohesive. You want your logo to be cohesive, the color schemes that you use, and all of that. If you're constantly changing, people aren't going to know what your business is or who your business is. So try to pick a theme, pick a color story, and stick with it. Like I said, I am guilty of this myself. I just get too excited by lots of different things. Underpricing your products is such a common mistake that people make when starting out their craft or creative business. I have also been guilty of this one. You think that if you price your goods under what the average is, you will sell more of them. And whilst you may sell more of them, you'll make less money because you're underpricing. Also, people might look at your goods and think, well, what's wrong with them? Why are they charging so little? If you're at a yarn show and a bunch of people are charging £20 for a skein of yarn and you're charging £16, you're doing the same amount of work as the other people and making less money from it. Undervaluing your work doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be more successful. You're creating more work for yourself to make the same amount of money as the other people. Also, if you're only charging £15 for a skein of yarn anyway, you can never have sales because you'll never be able to go below that. You'll never be able to give discounts because you'll never be able to go below that. So just something to think about. Have a look at other businesses that are making similar things around you and try to price fairly on that. I have a whole video talking about how to price your hand makes, so check that out if you haven't already. When you start a business and it's a creative business, it's very, very easy to kind of neglect the business side of things. It's going to be, it might be, I don't know, it might be quite new to you and you really like making things, you really like dyeing yarn, you really like bead weaving, whatever it is, and you think, oh yeah, I can sell these, it'll be fun, it's just like my hobby but I make money from it. The issue with that is if you treat your business like a hobby, you are going to slip up at some point. There's a bunch of legal things that you need to do in order to make your business legit. Now in the UK, you can earn up to a certain amount of money before you even have to think about worrying about taxes. It's around £1,000. I can't fully remember what it is right now off the top of my head, but any more than that, you have to register and do your self-assessment taxes. Whilst you don't have to pay any money if you earn, I think, under 12,000 and something pounds, I have an accountant now, I don't have to worry about all this myself. You will find yourself in a spot of bother if you do not save tax money. Please save tax money. If you're starting a creative business, set it to the side. And then if you don't owe the government that tax money, lovely, wonderful, that's yours, you've got it back. But you don't want to do your taxes, send them off, get your quote back and think, I can't afford this. And then you're begging on social media for other people to buy stuff from you because you're desperate to pay this tax bill when you just should have been saving it anyway, because it's not your money to spend. If you treat your business as a business from the off, as a serious business, then you shouldn't have any problems. You'll need to register the name and all of that fun stuff. I have these as two separate points, but they do kind of coincide together. Poor product photography. If you're selling in person, this isn't going to be such an issue, but if you're selling online, product photography is so important because that's the only reference people have when they're buying things. When I started out with my business, and even now, my photos sometimes aren't the best, but I try. And I do notice that the yarn that is not as well photographed, they don't sell as well as the yarn that is better photographed. You don't have to be a professional photographer. You don't have to have a super fancy DSLR camera. You don't have to do all this fancy pants stuff. I take photos using my phone because I find it much easier. I don't understand all the settings on this camera. I have it set up for video purposes, and even then I mess up sometimes. But I just use my phone. I edit on my phone using Snapseed, which is a free app you can edit photos on, and good photos makes the world of difference because people know what to expect. They know what they're buying, sorry. Especially if you're dyeing yarn, you need the colour to be as accurate as possible to in person. So good photos is a must. And with that, if you are selling online, you need to make sure that you're marketing yourself well. Social media has become a very busy place. People aren't engaging with social media like they used to because of the rise of TikTok and the scrolling and the scrolling and the scrolling. People aren't liking, they're not commenting, they're more passive in their consumption of social media than they ever were before. And maybe it's because they're burnt out on social media and they hate it, or I don't know what it is. Just because you've created something and put it on your website or on Etsy doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to come and buy it, because unless they know it exists, how are they meant to go and buy it? So you need to make sure you are marketing yourself well and you're marketing yourself enough. Try not to rely on just one source for your marketing. Try to have multiple. For example, I post on Instagram, I post here on YouTube, I have a newsletter, I post on TikTok, and I do YouTube shorts. So I try to post everywhere because only a very small proportion of people who follow me across social media are actually going to see all of these posts. Speaking of not just relying on one place, try to build an email list. If you have a website, it's, I find, a really good way to drive traffic to my website. If I'm launching something, I don't spam emails. They're not sent weekly. They're literally sent when I have a shop update. And if I'm launching advents or launching a collection like that, doing a newsletter, I find, makes a huge difference in my sales. If I've forgotten to do a newsletter, I will not make as many sales. And then I write a newsletter and send it out. And all of a sudden I start having sales come in. Because, like I say, social media is oversaturated. Some people, they just don't see your posts. They follow so many other dyers or so many other people. They don't see what I'm posting. So having a newsletter means that it pops up in their email inbox and they're able to see what I'm doing, able to see what I'm selling, and it's just another way to get eyeballs on my products. A lot of businesses want to blow up on social media. They have seen various small businesses blow up on TikTok, especially in sort of COVID times, 2020, 2021. A lot of businesses blew up on TikTok, and all of a sudden they had to scale their businesses in such a huge way in such a short amount of time in order to meet demand, because a video of theirs went viral and all of a sudden they're selling hundreds and hundreds of whatever their product is. And that is what people think they want. To me, that is not what I would want. That sounds so stressful. I personally think, and this is just my own opinion, you are more than welcome to disagree with me, especially if you're in a creative business where you are making the products yourself, you don't want to suddenly explode on social media and go viral because you're making the products yourself. There's only so much you can physically do with your hands. There's only so much you can physically make. Unless you want to start outsourcing and you have some people you can trust who can help you out and make things to a quality that you are happy with, by all means, do what you want. But for me, I don't think that blowing up on social media is all that it's hyped up to be. You are going to be so burnt out and you're going to be so overcommitted to everything that you're making. You're just going to be exhausted from running your business because you've overcommitted, you've sold too much, and you can't fulfill everything in the time window that you need. And you're just going to be so stressed. And that is not a sustainable way to run a business. I don't think anyway. It's much better, I find, to start small and gradually build your audience. You can gradually scale what you're making. For example, for the longest time when I was dyeing yarn, I was doing 2 trays at a time in my oven. Last year, because I was pregnant, I decided to upgrade. By that point, I could do 4 trays at a time. I decided to upgrade and put an oven in my dye shed because I was pregnant and I wanted to be able to do more in a shorter amount of time. So now I can dye 15 trays at once, which is 60 skeins. That would have taken me all day. That would have been an 8-hour day before. Whereas now I can do that in, I don't know, some 2 to 4 hours, depending on the colorway. And I don't have to be there the whole time doing it because once it's in the oven, I just leave it for a couple of hours until I put the next layer of dye on. And the fact that my business was slowly growing in that time meant that I could save up for that oven and buy it. And now I can do much more in a shorter amount of time, and it's glorious. Once you've niched down and you know what you're selling, it's really, really important not to just go ham and spend all of your money, all of your life savings on products to sell, because who knows if they're going to sell. Don't open your business, quit your job and think, this is it, this is my life now, I'm going to make it work. Because realistically, you might not. And you don't want to spend heaps and heaps of money on a product that potentially, I don't know, potentially might not sell. I don't know, it might not. I can't predict these things. So it is much better, start small, buy some of something, see how it sells. If they all sell out, buy some more and rinse and repeat. For the first little bit, your business is not going to be making heaps and heaps of money because essentially everything you're earning, you are going to put back into the business, and that is absolutely fine if you save your tax money. But don't just spend all of the money that you have on a bunch of product, because otherwise it's just going to be sat on your shelf and you're not going to be able to shift it, and it will just be looking at you, and then you'll have to discount it in a huge way in order to sell it, and it'll be a whole thing. My final point is being very defensive when you get feedback from customers. It is very easy to get very personally attached to your business. I am very personally attached to my business. My business feels like my firstborn child, which feels very odd to say considering now I have had an actual child. But I have built this business from nothing, and it now can sustain me, and it's amazing. Amazon is here. I lied, that wasn't an Amazon order. It was 2 massive boxes of yarn. More mini skeins. As I was saying. So it's very easy to take things that people say about your business very, very personally, because you put so much passion and love into the things that you create and the things that you make to sell. You don't want to hear anything negative from people. However, if you get too defensive, and I have definitely done this. If you get too defensive and you snap too quickly, your business can't grow and improve because you're not listening to the feedback that your customers are giving you. If they say that they don't like the way that you package your yarn, or they don't like, or you've not set the yarn enough, or I don't know, you haven't woven in the ends well on the thing that you've made to sell. I don't know. It's very easy to think you have done a good job, you've done the right thing, and it can be difficult to be told that you haven't. I am not someone who takes criticism well. I will say that. But it is important that you listen to the feedback that your customers are giving you so you can grow and you can improve your business. And hopefully, if you do listen to the feedback that they give you, your business will stick around for a longer time because you will create that good relationship with your customers and that level of trust. Now, of course, there are people who will just say things without knowing they don't know what they mean, or they don't really understand what they're saying, and they will criticize you for doing something which you know is absolutely fine. So if someone is telling you you're charging too much, then you can say, okay, and you don't need to defend yourself. That's absolutely fine. You can just say, okay, and move on. As someone who used to take criticism very, very personally, and I was told a few times that some of the things that I make were too expensive, and I did go into a whole diatribe about why I charge what I charge and blah, blah, blah. After a couple of years of doing this, I just realised there's no point in me doing that. It would be much more beneficial just for me to say, okay, and let them get on with their day, because me talking about why I charge what I charge isn't going to change their mind. But that is by the by. Anyway, those are the 10 common mistakes that I see people make with their business when they're starting up their creative business. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to see me expand on any of these points, if there's anything else that you would like me to cover, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe. I post a new video here every single Friday, and it would be lovely if you stuck around, but you don't have to if you don't want to. I do also have a Patreon. If you'd like to sign up for that, you get a bonus video every single week. Once again, you don't have to if you don't want to. And with all that being said, I'm going to go and take this makeup off now because I'm going to get ready to go to the gym. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being amazing. And thank you for being you. You're an incredible person. And I will see you very, very soon in next week's video. Bye.